Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Expanse, Season 2, Episode 8. It's called Pyre. Full spoilers for the episode, as always.
Man, episode 8 already.
I know, I'm glad there's more than 10 this year, because
Oh, me too.
we'd be so close to... I mean, it'd probably just be a double finale next week if it was only 10. And that'd be it.
Yeah, that would be.
We'd be done.
Man, that'd be so disappointing, wouldn't
I
it?
know, but we got up to 13 this year, so it's got a few more left. But yeah, it's been in super quick. So I guess the biggest thing in this episode is we're introduced. I mean, not the biggest thing maybe, but we're introduced to a new character, Dr. Meng, who was on Ganymede, and it was funny actually because it opens with this sort of very dreamlike scene of he's a botanist. We find that out later as we go
Yeah.
on, but he's working with plants in the sort of the dome, the biodome, and he's got this little girl. And I'm not gonna lie, for the first minute, I thought this was a flashback. And I thought it was a younger Mao and young Julie when she was a kid.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was something like that as well. I was
Yeah.
like, this feels like it's
Obviously,
someone we're meant to know
yeah.
already.
Obviously, as soon as we seen the thing falling, it was, oh, this is Ganymede, this is present,
Yeah,
this isn't
yeah.
them. But I thought they'd cast a different actor to play a younger version of him, and this was supposed to be young Julie as a kid. But no, he's just someone we don't know yet. And we see him on a refugee ship that we heard about last time. He's on a refugee ship, and he's with this other woman that he worked with, an old doctor. And he finds out that his daughter was at the doctor's, and the main part of the mirror crashed on that, and he thinks his daughter's dead. So he's very emotional. And at least up until this point in the episode, it was humanising what was going on. This was like the on the ground innocent people who were being affected by it. Was obviously there's more
Yeah.
to it than that, but this is where it was at this point, and it was working fairly well.
It was very somber, wasn't it?
Very somber, and it felt like in times of war you get this type of situation where there's these innocent people who are refugees without a home, and it kind of felt like that. And the woman that he's with, that he worked with, tries to convince him, come back to Mars with me. Now that you've got no place to go, you grew up in Ganymede, come back to Mars. And she even sort of goes for his hand at one point, as if there maybe was a possibility of a romance that hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
And I know there wasn't before, because she called him Dr. Meng. That's how she phrased it. So it wasn't like it was his girlfriend or something like that. Or his,
Yeah.
but that takes a dark twist. You get a little bit of an arc where he actually decides at the last second to go with her, because the ship that is coming to take the people who are going to Earth and Mars is apparently here, and they all go off, and at the last minute he gets up and he says, we're going to be competing for the same job, because she was saying earlier, we can get jobs is what we do on Mars. And they lead everyone into this what is supposed to be like, well, it is the airlock. It's the connection
Yeah.
airlock that would be connected to the ship, but of course,
Kind of like the pressurization chamber.
yeah. And the guy who's running the ship, the belter, stops him and says, no, inners only, you're not allowed. And she's about to stay as well, and he's like, no, it's fine, I'll meet you later. I'll go wherever I need to go, and then I'll meet you on Mars later. And this great thing, its door shuts, and the guy's like, all right, turning the gravity off, go in 0G for the transfer. And this beautiful moment where they all start floating, and he floats as well because he's not getting any mag boots on. And they put their hands in the glass, and as soon as this sort of started, and it was kind of beautiful, I'm like, she's a goner.
This can't last, can it? Not on this show.
No, and it was funny because even before the scene started, I actually was thinking throughout the episode, both of these characters are not going to make it. And probably her that's going to die, because I feel like we've been introduced more to him than her. She's here to aid his story.
Interestingly, which is I thought he might be the one to die, so they'd swerve us. Like, we
As a
connected
swerve,
to him,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, that's the swerve. Yeah.
I could see that, yeah. Especially when we find out his daughter might still be alive. I could see if it was her that was alive, that she would feel the need to go and look for herself because
Yeah.
of it, because of the friendship and whatever. But no, she dies, and it's a really sick death as well. They just open the airlock, and all these people, and you find out it was basically racial purging. The Belters.
Yeah,
And
didn't want anyone from Earth or Mars.
Yeah, and we see the obviously the other sides of this. We see more of a revolution kind of rising on Tycho, and we'll get to that in a minute. But that's what this is. It's just this act of complete.
Yeah, and it has this hauntingly beautiful, mournful piano piece over it.
Yeah,
It's just fantastic.
it's beautiful in a dark way, obviously. But and you see her out there, and that's what I love is you see her freeze to death, and you see the other bodies floating around in space. But I love this thing where you see the last breath that comes from her body, because you don't just instantly die in space. You would be, your body would still technically be alive for however long.
Very briefly. Yeah.
Briefly. But you see her last breath exhale when she's floating out in space. And she's frozen, she's basically already dead, but there's just a little bit of oxygen, well, not oxygen, but whatever's coming out. But yeah, it's just...
And then you have the
stuff.
guy who opened the airlock, who stopped him getting on. He's like, basically like, hey, aren't you glad I stopped you getting in there?
Yeah,
he's like, hey, you owe me one almost.
Yeah, you should thank me. And it's like, no. Because what this is clearly showing, it's this whole... These two people don't care that one of them's a Earther or a Martian and the other's a Belter. They don't care. They're just two people who like each other. That's all this is. It's people being ripped apart because of bullshit rules or bullshit ideologies that are just created in hate.
Yes.
And so yeah, Expanse, as it often does, makes a wonderful point. Of course, he gets to Tycho afterwards, and his path does intersect, of course, with other characters once he gets there. So we'll jump off from him just now. But I will say I think it did a really good job of introducing us to a new character who seemingly will be a relatively big player for a while at least.
Yeah, that was the bulk of like maybe the first third or so of the episode was his stuff. So I felt like we got a really good connection to him through that.
Yeah, and I mean it was already tragic enough with his daughter, who we thought was dead, and okay, she might a bit of hope, she might be alive, but this death of this other woman and him witnessing it in this such a tragic way gives him his tragedy. It gives him because even at that point, before we found out that his daughter might be alive, I thought if he does meet up with our team at some point, this just gave him a reason to fight.
Yeah, do you know the bit that really like drove it home for me? It's when he got to Tycho and he goes up to the authorities and he's like, "Hey, someone just dumped these all out the airlock." And the woman's just like, "Yeah, well, you got a name, you got a ship, anything?" It's like, no, can't remember. It's like, well, what can I do then?
Yeah, well, she's right. She needs information.
Well, yeah, but it's so cold the way she handles it. She's like, not my problem, basically.
It's actually one of the most interesting things I thought about this episode is that it's really setting up this idea that, okay, the OPA are the extremists. They're the what you would call the terrorist cells, if you will, to go really extreme with the terminology. But then you've got these regular people in the same group of people, the Belters, who don't want this, and he's clearly shocked by this and it's violent to him. Drummer, as we see later on, is not just drop everything and align with the OPA. In fact, it's funny because last week Drummer and Dawes had that moment, and it turns out the papa word didn't mean father, which we kind of jumped to.
I think we maybe misheard it. I think it's that accent, to be honest, that he does.
To be fair, I heard it as papa, which is why I thought father.
That's why I thought he said papa as well, but in the accent, and you just misheard it a little bit.
It wasn't. Well, it's funny actually. It didn't actually matter because we'd already heard it when Dawes called Johnson the big screen. But when we see the other OPA people hearing it underground, on one of the, well, I say underground, it's not ground, but you know what I mean. And with cameras going down the shaft, and it's sort of like, you hear it in the distance, I'm like, the accent's great, and I love that they've got a unique accent that they've made for this, but it's actually really hard to understand when it's like over comms, and it's like kind of not perfect.
It's because we're not, it's really hard to
fill in the blanks.
Associate something, yeah, because obviously you're not familiar with it. It's kind of like how we get sometimes with some American audiences in comments. We've had people go, "Hey, your accents be a bit hard to understand at times."
Like with anything, you just get used to it, and I feel like I've gotten more used to it as the show's went on. But it's just the kind of thing where it's obviously it didn't matter here. They knew that we'd already heard it, so we didn't have to make it out clearly. So it didn't matter at all. But it's just kind of that kind of thing. But yeah, this idea, you've got the extremists and you've got the Belters who aren't the extremists, and you've got Fred Johnson, who isn't actually a Belter, obviously, but he's fighting for the Belters, but he's trying to avoid conflict. He's trying to avoid the escalation of conflict at every chance he gets.
Yeah.
And it's all very interesting. That stuff's really become a big part of the show, and I think actually seeing the OPA revolution sort of start to unfold is
very interesting, isn't it? It's
fascinating to watch.
It's kind of like OPA versus Fred, but also versus Earth and Mars at the same time. They're taking on everyone at once, basically.
Yeah, and then you've got, like, Naomi's caught in this weird place in the middle. She's not happy that she had to hold a gun to Diogo. She, gives Alex shit for it at the start of the episode, and she's very conflicted. By the way, she's shitting herself when she finds out, the scientist dude was he was talking to more protomolecule, and she goes and she sneaks off and she's checking, like, frantically, is it the one I hid? Turns out it's not. Turns out it was coming from Ganymede, and that kind of makes sense given what we've seen. We've seen the being that looked very protomolecule-esque.
Yeah, I think that kind of confirms our suspicions there.
To an extent, they could still swerve us. It's not
They could.
Won't be the first time.
All right, it was another piece of evidence
Sure.
to our theory.
Sure. If we're scientists, this is another piece of evidence to our theorem.
Yes.
But yeah. So you had this OPA revolution kind of starting up, and we had to the point where the sort of main OPA guy we've been seeing leads a little group. We do find out there's a traitor in the command deck on the bridge of the Tycho, and
Shocking.
I know. But they lead a little assault and they kill some people, and they're very ruthless about it. It's very, very cold and sadistic.
So quick as well. It's so just instant calculation. There's no emotion in it. It just feels like this is just what they're doing.
Yeah, and he shoots Drummer. He tries to use that to convince Fred to get the launch codes. And actually, I really like that. Alex stumbles upon this is happening because Naomi had a monitoring station set up for the missiles to make sure nothing funny was going on. And I actually like how simple the fix was for this. They have Amos, and we'll talk more about Amos. Mm-hmm. They have Amos go walking outside the station with his mag boots and mag gloves. They have mag gloves too, which makes sense, but we've not seen that before, I don't think.
Yeah.
Don't remember it anyway.
I don't recall them.
And he just shuts off the oxygen. Easy, they'll fall asleep, and then they go in. And by the way, don't piss off Drummer, because she will execute you on sight.
Oh, that was terrifying, because Alex was, helping her out, and she was like...
And you thought she was going to go OPA. You thought she was going to swerve.
I wasn't entirely sure where it was going. He's like, yeah, we'll get you there. I know you can't walk. We'll get you to the med bay. It'll be fine. And she just pushes him away, executes the two guys, and just storms off. And it's like, she is terrifying.
She's a badass. I think Drummer is a lot more interesting after this episode.
Definitely.
I think our loyalty, the fact that she was with Dawes and worked with Dawes, but switched to Fred because she could see what Dawes was and who he is. When she's talking about when they met Fred, and Dawes has this unique way of looking at the world, and she can see, and it's almost like Naomi's kind of still blinded by it. She's still kind of in awe of him.
Yeah. Do you know what makes me really interested as well? Obviously, last episode we had Fred promoting Dawes to, being, you should be the head of this, and you can just see in her mind going, what are you doing? You've got to think that's what's going through her head. It's like, hey, I know what he's like. That's why I'm here in the first place.
But again, it shows that, she looks like hardcore OPA. She's got the accent, she's got the tattoos, everything about her, and it shows that not everyone who's part of what you would classify a group thinking the same way. Again, it's very topical
there's
in that
factions
sense.
within the faction.
Yeah, and it's not a sense that it's not a hive mind, that people are different, and the extremists are louder, and they make everyone think that's what that group of people is. Again, very topical, very social, great stuff, hitting all these points. What good science fiction does, and this is hitting a lot of very current topics and issues with what it's exploring. Great stuff. So yeah, speaking of Naomi and Holden's little bit at the end, which I loved that Holden got pissed off when he got interrupted because he had to call Fred, who by the way is saying they're not welcome back because he keeps refilling their ship and giving them food. And
well, unless they bring him the proto molecule.
Unless they bring the proto molecule, which in a weird way I can see them kind of ending up doing.
Yeah, maybe look, this is the only way we can do anything.
I think they'll make the choice to go back. I don't know what will cause it, but something will cause them to go. It's a guess. I really don't know. People have read the books.
But like Holden says, hey, do you really think you're going to be in charge? Now,
that's just true.
I think he might be. I think Fred's he's gonna put up a hell of a fight because this is what he's built.
He might.
But he might not win it.
I also think, they've already... we didn't see a Vasarala this episode, but they've started, there's an established link between them now. They've spoken to each other over comms, even if it was delayed, I think. But
I wonder if the OPA will use that to kind of discredit him.
Possibly, but I'm also wondering if a Vasarala will use that to make him more of an agent for her. If they see they've got similar goals, because she doesn't want things to escalate. She also is trying to not have a war with Mars on Earth. So I'm wondering if they will end up being more of a partnership at some point going forward. Will their goals align? Going back to that moment with the sort of romantic moment with Holden and Naomi, I really like that she questions though, because he was going to go and assassinate the scientist so that no one could get the proto molecule. He was going to go and do it cold, and she calls him out and says, "That's not you." And he brings up Miller. He's like, "Well, you defended Miller doing it. What's different about me?" He's like, "It's different because it's you. You're not a killer." It's the it's
You're
almost
the hero. You can't be the killer. You've got to be better than that.
yeah, it's the no Batman, you can't cross that line because you're not that person. But Catwoman, yeah, she'll go and snap the guy's neck or whatever.
Yeah.
It was really a Wonder Woman reference. I mix my words, but only fans of the comics will know that I made that mistake. But I've pointed it out because I'm an honest person.
Mm.
I'm an honest person, okay?
Aye, good for you.
But anyway, I like that moment because she called him out, and she's right. That isn't him. Go back to the start of the show. He's the moral compass up into a point until shit's gotten too bad, where he's started to like break him. He started to get a bit more hard-headed, and he's had to kind of.
I think even just this season, his reaction when Miller shot the guy,
Yeah.
and then to now where he was considering doing it himself in absolute cold blood, not even in the moment.
Yeah, it's total arc, and it's there. And when he says, "I need you to remind me and bring me back," it's like him realizing that he has like lost where he was. He's lost who he was, and for me, that's a big character moment. And it also adds to it when he's like, "Yeah, no more secrets," and you just see her face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you might want to tell him.
It's just like this is coming out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this is this is going to blow up in your face.
This is going to come out just when it's been long enough that it'll hurt, like that she didn't tell him the secret.
Oh yeah, of course. And they say "I love you" for the first time. Yeah. By the way, in this scene, which was nice because they've been so bitchy towards each other the last.
It is, and
episodes.
It's kind of bittersweet as well in that the fact that this scene is no secrets, I love you, but then she's holding something back.
She's the one with the secret. She was pissed at him for not telling him about the proto-molecule, and I'm like, what's the exact thing you're not telling him about?
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. So.
Get off your high horse.
Get off the high horse, but you can see it in her face. She knows she's messed up.
She knows she's doing it wrong. Yeah.
If she just tells him now, he's still going to be pissed. Now, admittedly, telling him now is much better than finding out later when it has to come out.
It's already too late though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the moment's already passed. It's like she just has to hope it doesn't come out now, which inevitably it will.
It will. Yeah.
But she has to just hope.
Amos. Not talked about Amos.
No, we haven't.
I'll talk about Amos. So we see him. he's very sort of standoffish with Alex. He's non-caring kind of attitude as he does, and then he confronts him on the ship. He gets on the Rassie, and he almost snaps. Like because Alex pushes back when he mentions his family, he almost throws Alex off the ledge. I don't know if that drop's big enough to kill him, but it certainly would have hurt.
Yeah.
Probably some
he
broken
seems
bones.
Even more sociopathic than usual.
He does, and we see him just before that. He's looking into what I assume is how to get the procedure done that he was talking to the scientist about.
John, there was a point where, with the way he was reacting with Alex, I was like, has he already done it? Like, it's just the way he is exceptionally blank towards things this episode, even more so than normal. He seems almost unaware of the pain that he's causing at times.
Do you know what I loved about it, though? I loved it after he sort of calmed down and he pulled back. And like because Alex obviously he's angry at him at first, but when he almost like tries to kill him, he's like, "Wait, whoa, man, what are you doing? Like we were having a fight, not this wasn't to the death. It was just an argument."
Yeah.
And I love that Amos just says, "Don't make me fight you. I don't want to do it." And who would fly the ship? As if A, he knows he's going to win.
yeah, and B, it's like, well, this is all there is. There's no friendship, there's no bond. It's just I need you as a tool, essentially.
Yeah, there's that, but it's that way he's aware that he doesn't care. So he's like saying, like, "I'm warning you. Like, I don't want to fight you, but if you make me, I will, and you will lose," kind of thing. But what I love about it is the conversation does actually bring up feelings for Alex because he's looking at his photo of his family later, and he's like maybe realizing that he has left them for so long, that he has been gone. And from Amos's point of view, I love the scene at the end, and we'll talk about why Dr. Meng's on the ship, but Dr. Meng, he's introducing Dr. Meng to the ship, and he's like, yeah, blah 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 blah. You know this button, and Dr. Meng complains, "Oh, you're keeping me locked in here. This is how you treat your guests." And like, "You're a guide." Again, very cold, very stoic.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and asks why, not why, he doesn't ask, but he confirms why he's coming with. He's like, "Oh, so you're coming with us to Ganymede to try and find your little girl?" And he says, "Yeah," and he just says, "That's a good reason," as he leaves. And it's almost like the one thing that kind of gets through to him, because it's the one thing that got through to him in the last episode, is children.
Yes.
It's like maybe it's the last time he actually felt stuff, so he understands that part at least.
Could be that, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, for some reason that clicks with him. He understands that more than the other stuff.
What I really like about it is you can read it both ways. Like he is still uncaring. It's like, yeah, it's a good reason for you. I don't care. Or you can take it as that is a good reason. That's very noble. Children, like we were just saying there. It kind of works both ways, which is why I like it.
I think it's exactly both ways. I don't think it's that he necessarily respects it. I think it's the one thing he just understands as an outsider. Like, it's the one thing he kind of misses, or at least remembers having, so he misses, like, being a kid. So,
yeah.
I think he looks at it from a third perspective almost, right? And he accepts it's a good reason, even if he doesn't feel it.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
That's kind of how I read it, but...
Yeah.
But we'll see where it goes. But Amos has got more in. I feel like Amos and Alex were good in the first season, but they didn't have as much depth. Whereas I feel like season 2 has really given them a lot to.
It has done so much with them in a different way than I expected as well.
Yeah.
Because Amos was often just either scary or comic relief in the first one, but in this one he's actually got something to him. Like, yes, he's still both scary and comic relief, both through the sociopathic tendencies, but they serve a deeper purpose this season.
Yeah. So go back to Dr. Meng and why the crew does run into him so surprisingly quickly. I wasn't expecting it. That's quick. I was expecting episodes of him on his own.
Especially after like last season of how long it took for the things
Miller
to
and even Draper, who didn't see this episode. Like either those, I was expecting episodes and episodes of it.
That reminds me, obviously, no Avasarala, no Draper. I really like that this show goes, no, they're not needing this episode. We're not going to put them in just for the sake of reminding you that they're there. It just goes, no, let's focus on what we need to.
Because in a weird way, everything came back to the belt in this. Like, everything was about the OPA, someone who was part of the OPA, someone who was affected by the OPA, and the OPA after the proto-molecule. Like, all of it linked back into the one thing. So it was very focused in that sense. It didn't muddy the waters with things it didn't need. Yeah, so you're right. Yeah.
I think that show's been great for that in general. Like, even when we do have other, like all the other plot threads, they typically do relate to whatever the thing of that episode is. It's still always very focused, even if it feels like it's almost scattershot at first glance.
And of course, you like I have every expectation that we'll get a scene that near the start of the next episode, someone bursting into Vasarala's office. Something's happened. The OPA have done this, like kind of thing.
Pretty much keeping her informed, so we know she's up to date with us.
Yeah, I can almost see like the reaction to something. Something like that. But so they're looking for where they basically, that's the reason why Naomi and Drummer go out to the satellite thingamajig, the tower, is because they think they can triangulate where the scientist was looking and hearing this proto-molecule from, and they triangulate it, and that's when we find Ganymede. And what I like about that swerve is because we think, oh, they're finding hers, like that's what he was talking
and
to.
She's clearly thinking it.
Yeah, but it's like a really good swerve because it actually makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, that does make sense as well.
Yeah, this is the big event that's kind of kicked off this episode, at least. I mean, obviously, it was
two
a couple
episodes,
of episodes,
really.
But this episode specifically, this is what everything in this episode was the aftermath to Ganymede.
Oh yeah.
It was all a reaction to that event.
So they track that down, and they sort of like, okay, right. So people who worked with the other scientists, they were for this company, and they narrowed it down, and like, who was there on Ganymede from this? Then they narrowed it down, and there was one person. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they're looking for him. But for some reason, he's only working as a pediatrician. He's just a working doctor, not doing any research, anything like that. So they look at who was with them there, and sure enough, Dr. Meng pops up. He mentioned even that his daughter was seeing the doctor. So they find him, and initially he's kind of scared and kind of runs. And it because the teased they had this thing on him in a cylinder, and there was light, and it was like, oh, what's in there? It doesn't look like the protomolecule, but is it something else? It turns out it's just a regular plant. He's a
soybean, I think it was.
Yeah. Obviously, he's trying to terraform and things like that, and that's his purpose. But it's just simple. It's just what.
Yeah, I love that scene where they're almost interrogating him, and he's just completely broken. Like he doesn't know how to react to this, and he's just spilling everything. And
do you know what
they're like, yeah, I think he is telling the truth.
Yeah, I like that they start very sort of almost too aggressive, and we've seen what he's went through, and we don't suspect anything, I don't think. So we're like, oh, you've been a bit harsh, Holden, back off a bit. And as it goes on, and they kind of hear more of his story, they kind of, and she even pulls him aside, look, he's either a great liar or he has nothing to do with this. He is terrified, and They pull up the whole the footage of the doctor's clinic, and they see that this guy took his daughter away. Like he knew there was something about to happen, like an hour before.
Which I think is interesting because it paints this doctor as not. It makes him not entirely evil. He went back and saved this child.
I don't think.
Arguably, it's for other sinister purposes.
Yeah, I think that. I don't think it's. I think this is more of a he wants a girl to either experiment on or
probably
for something scientific.
I like the idea that it can look like it's that there is something redeeming to him.
You never know,
he didn't want the children to suffer.
Sure, maybe he knew there was going to be one kid there, and he thought, "Oh crap, I can't let a kid die," and he made that choice. I'm leaning towards villainous.
I'm also more inclined to think that. I'm just putting it out there as a possibility.
I think that. I think there's a chance. And the cool thing about this is, we kind of felt, I think, all season one that Miller's search for Julie felt kind of doomed. I didn't really think he was going to find her and she was going to be okay.
Yeah, it was a lost cause from the start, wasn't it?
And maybe here there is hope. Maybe whatever's going to happen to the girl has not happened yet by the time they get there.
I wonder if it is just with Miller and Julie. We kind of, because obviously we opened with Julie of the season, and we kind of saw how she was in such a desperate place even from the start. That was like, yeah, this kind of feels like a stretch. Whereas we don't really know anything about what's going on beyond what the characters know.
Yeah.
So it feels like there is hope in the same way that they have hope, which makes me think that it's probably doomed as well, because that's just more crushing.
Yeah, because it'll hurt us. But then again, maybe they want to give us one happy ending, and maybe everything else will go to shit. You know, at the end of the season, proto-molecules are going to take over everything. The human race on multiple planets are doomed, but the dad did get his girl back, and that'll be the one positive.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Maybe.
So we've got something to root for this season now.
Yeah, there's a personal thing to root for. It's not just the saviour of everyone. It's this guy who wants his daughter back, and and it's impressive that in one little sort of kind of memory/dream sequence, they did enough to make us kind of care. Like he looks over and he sees her.
Yeah,
and she's against Jupiter. Like she's looking at Jupiter, and it's a really kind of very, very beautiful sort of operatic. She's so small. She's a small kid anyway, but she's dwarfed by Jupiter. It makes her feel tiny in the frame.
And I think that's even in this episode. She's just a small piece of the puzzle, isn't she?
Yeah.
Even though for him, it's just that is everything. But in the grand scheme of things of everything we're looking at in this show, even in this episode, it's just a tiny thing in everything else. But
it's the kind of thing, like the OP are treating like there's people and their soldiers like they're expendable cannon fodder. They're just part of a number. Whereas does this fight from Holden and the crew, is this fight to save the human race from the proto-molecule and wars, is it worth a goddamn thing without the people at the centre of it? And is this Dr. Meng and his daughter the human part of this story? Is it worth anything if we can't save one dad and one little girl?
Yeah.
So
I think that's why it's working so well for me. I mean, this whole relationship, this whole idea is only one episode in.
I know, which is impressive. That's why it's so good. That's why it's a good show.
That's why it works so well for me, because it is so simple at its core. It is just, this is the human heart of it. This is the basic relationship that we have to care about, but it works.
And even in a sort of plot detail kind of function, he's also a guide, as Amos says. Like he can help them navigate if they do get in past the Martian blockade. Can they get in and look around, that kind of thing? And he can be of use in that sense as well. So he's got a practical use as well as thematically and storytelling, a good sort of central personal core for the audience to root for. Which is why you're probably right, and it's going to end in heartbreak, and it's going to crush us all.
I think that's just the cynic in me, and this show has not. Probably. This show hasn't helped me not be a cynic.
Yeah, I think the only thing we've really missed is probably the actual Dawes call where he gives his speech to Johnson. It was really good. Felt really big. Felt like almost Star Trek-esque the way it came on the big screen at the front of the bridge.
Yeah, I'm really setting up this rivalry now as well. It's because before it was like this tenuous not friendship, but alliance. But now Dawes has really publicly moved against him.
I mean, we even heard the backstory how he found Johnson. Johnson wanted death. He was like ready for suicide after everything that happened in his past, and here he's built him back up. But Johnson's become this person who's trying to fight for this thing. But it's not about war for him. He's seen what war can do. He wants to avoid that. He wants to do things in a different way. And Dawes, almost egotistical at his core, is like, no, we're gonna have a blaze of glory, and thousands, if not millions, will die.
But it'll be worth it for
yeah.
to get our message across.
And Johnson, who's had to kill people, is like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's the people who have never. I mean, not that Dawes has never had to take lives before, because we've seen that he is willing to do that kind of thing. But people who have perhaps never seen. Well, see, he kind of has. The point I'm making is not working, because Dawes has seen this stuff.
I think it's that Dawes has seen it, but he's always been in control. Fred, obviously, he was tricked into what happened for his thing. He was just, he thought he was doing something noble, but he never was. Whereas Dawes has always been aware of exactly what his actions were.
The point I was trying to make, which isn't quite working because he has witnessed a lot of it, is rich people waging war who have never actually had to go and take a life themselves, calling the shots. Whereas Johnson has went through that, so he is more fit to lead in that sense, because he understands the weight of the decisions in that sense. Whereas you feel like Dawes is playing, he's playing a game of chess essentially. He's playing with pawns, and that's maybe all he see. For all the talk he gives about, oh yeah, I believe you're with the belt, Johnson, but it's not in you. You're still an earther, and like, I'm truly for the belt and the OPA and all that. But at your core, you kind of feel like, I don't know, there's part of me that feels that this is more of a personal.
That's it, isn't it? He's like,
game.
yeah, I know you're trying to help us, but it's like a personal vendetta, and it's like, it is that extremism, isn't it? Where the belt for the belt, essentially.
But it's really just about him and his.
Yeah, it's he wants the power, he craves it, and he's enjoying the moment of it all, I think.
It's actually making me think of Breaking Bad in a weird sense. If people who have seen Breaking Bad and think of a moment in the finale where Walter White admits something,
I knew exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what that's making me think of, and it's like, But yeah,
you can see the parallels.
Yeah, I'm going to start calling them O.P. Heisenberg. No. But I think that's everything. That was a meaty episode. Really meaty.
And I think it was interesting. Obviously, there was no big action set piece in this compared to most of the last handful, which have had something.
I think the closest is the sort of the seizure of the bridge at the end with the OPA guys, and that was quite tense. It was really tense, and the gunshots were really. It was hard hitting. And it was effective,
but it was brief compared to what we'd had recently.
And we got the Amos spacewalk, so it felt like stuff was building stuff, but nothing felt wasted. It didn't feel like it was a downer episode. Everything felt important, and we've spoke for 30 minutes here. It shows how much there was in there, and it's like, this is fine. It's fine to not have action as long as the drama is action packed, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely is. The pacing is immaculate as well, because it's just constantly giving you something, and then there's something else, and then it'll be like, hey, remember this, and it'll bring it back up, but tie it in with whatever else you've been seeing, and it works so well for that.
Yeah, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, if I have to nitpick at all, the only thing that I would still occasionally complain about in this show, obviously, maybe it has a weaker episode now and then. It's been a while, I feel like, but the only thing I can really nitpick is occasionally the sound mix, like the dialogue does get a bit lost.
Yeah, obviously, like we spoke about with the over the intercom, with the message. It was just, that's the accent. It knows we don't need to hear it, but it would have been nice to have some extra clarity. It
was the same as well when Meng and his friend are talking on the refugee ship. They mumbled a little bit, and there's the odd thing I didn't quite catch, and it's like,
there's like the engine rumble as well. That's kind of over it. It's just it's realistic that the engine rumble's there, but it's just a touch overpowering.
And I think that's intentional. I think that's like you're supposed to feel like you're trying to struggle to hear and stuff. But I don't know if that's necessarily enjoyable. It's just
I agree.
But it is a minor nitpick in a sea of greatness. Also, I love that. By the way, just one more thing. I love that. So Holden wants to destroy the proto-molecule on Ganymede, and I love that Johnson's like, "What are we going to do? Even if we can steal another ship, get through the blockade, steal a big ship to hit it with. We did that. Didn't work. We're here in this shitstorm because of it." So, again, it's the side of both sides of the conversation making sense, and neither one feels like an idiot.
Yeah, they're both clearly right in what they're saying, because they should destroy it, but Fred's like, but how? It's the thinking and versus the action, isn't it? One's just impulse, is like the moral, we have to do this, and one's the logical thinker going, but logistically, how?
Yeah, and maybe it's because I rewatched Aliens. We reviewed Aliens. Just it's not actually up yet. It'll be going up tomorrow. But nuke the site from orbit. That's the only way to be sure.
Is that even enough to be sure in this case?
With this, probably not. It's the protomolecule. It seems to be very resilient.
It does.
It's more resilient than a cockroach.
It'd be nice
apparently.
to see them. I mean, it'd be nice to see them try. Then again, they did try ram an entire massive spaceship into it.
It moved. It can't necessarily move. Well, it can move from a nuke, but if you have a big like sea of nukes all hitting it at one time,
maybe that's what'll happen with Fred's missiles.
Yeah, they'll just launch it all. Yeah, because they'll come out to play. There's no way we're just going to forget.
There's no way
them.
they don't, because especially with the way they keep reminding us as well. Every episode, they're like, "Hey, you've got these missiles."
Yep. There you go. That is The Expanse, Season 2, Episode 8. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Individual Twitters are on the screen for general everyday ramblings from us. Talk a lot about movies and comic books and shit and that kind of thing. And occasionally food, because food's important.
Food's great.
But that is us. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.